Well, then, welcome to TSG Live Talking Trains. This is one of the most beautiful days, maybe the most beautiful day of the week here in California, where we're coming to you from. I'm here with my guest co-host Murph once again. We don't have wine this time, sadly, but that's okay. We'll still get through the show one way or the other. And we have a lot of stuff to talk about this time, Murph.
Yeah, we have a couple people as guests coming up.
Yeah.
Glenn Sutherland and Phil Edholm.
Yeah.
And we'll be talking about, what is it?
Oh,
sorry.
Yeah. So, well, why don't we just bring Glenn up?
Yeah.
I think that would be good. And by the way, during this talk, I almost forgot. There's something else before we do that. And that is our friend Sparky 107 is doing his YouTube meet and greet. That's going to happen in May, if I remember right. I have it here on a note. Let me find that real quick and I'll give you that information. And that way, here it is. The date is from May 18th to May 20th, and it's going to be in, how do you say this? Is it Reading or Reading, Pennsylvania?
It's Reading, Pennsylvania.
That's what I thought.
Yes.
In Reading, Pennsylvania. So just FYI, if you want to find out more about that, you can go to the YouTube Meet and Greet Facebook page. And if somebody could, we have wonderful moderators. They're the people with the little wrench, and they can post links. So if someone posts a link, it'll be to the Facebook page for the YouTube Meet and Greet. Or you can go and watch his channel, Sparky 107 this weekend. He said he's going to post a video about that or do a live stream about this year's YouTube Meet and Greet. So we were at the one well, you weren't, but Sydney and I were at the one last year, and a lot of the viewers of this program and this channel were at the meet and greet last year, and we had a blast. So it's worth looking into. Now I got that out of the way. I wanted to get that out of the way because I would forget, and I don't want to forget because I told Dave I would, in fact, talk about that on the show today. So with that, let me bring Glenn on. This is our friend Glenn Sutherland. Hello, Glenn. Welcome back.
Hello, John. Hi, Murph.
Hi, Glenn.
And you have something else that we're going to be at that's a really cool event that I look forward to every year. Well, it's really two events. So,
well, and this year it's three events. So, wanted to tell you about that.
Yeah. So, should I bring up your little slideshow and we can go through that?
Oh,
right. So, why don't we? Yeah.
We're calling it Tuolumne Railroad Weekend. And for those of you from outside the area, Tuolumne is one of the counties in California that just had an incredible intensity and concentration of railroads 100 years ago. Two most famous of which are the Sierra Railway and the West Side Lumber Company Railway. And the Tuolumne Railroad Weekend, it's not an official name. And as we'll discuss, there are actually two different sponsors of a couple of these events, but we've combined forces. It took us about a year or so after we started the Sierra Seminar 15, 20 years ago to realize that we should be on the same weekend as the West Side Reunion. So now we are every year.
It's a smart idea.
This year, it's going to be on April 20 and 21, Saturday and Sunday, in a new location that we're very excited about, namely the Black Oak Casino Hotel, which is just on the edge of the small town of Tuolumne, California, which is a few miles east of Sonora, California, which itself is, maybe 2.5 hours straight east to San Francisco, up in the foothills.
It's a beautiful time of year to go up there, too, should mention.
It is. It's gorgeous up in the foothills, and we're excited about this new venue. And part of it is that there are hotel rooms on site, and we've arranged for a block of rooms for people that want to attend either or both of our events. And I'll tell you more about those in just a couple minutes.
Would you like me to
go on to the next slide, John?
Sure. Yeah. Just let me know when you need to advance.
Yeah, there are three events. The first Saturday morning and afternoon is the West Side Reunion that is produced by Frank Markovich. And he's been doing it a number of years. That event actually started about 35 years ago, literally as a reunion of West Side Lumber Company former employees. But it's sort of morphed into a Logging and Mining Modelers Convention. The second event is one that's new this year. That Saturday evening, we are putting on what we're calling the Tuolumne Historical Railroad Banquet. We had a dinner 10 or 15 years ago that was successful, and given the new venue and how amenable it was to an event of this type, we decided to try it again this year. And again, I'll tell you a little bit more about that. By the way, that event and the Sierra Railway Seminar are both now under the auspices of a new organization called the Tuolumne Historical Railroad Association, a new nonprofit that we formed a couple of years ago to preserve the history of all the railroads of Tuolumne County. And so the first event is still under Frank's direction. The other two are, we call it THRA, Tuolumne Historical Railroad Association, but we are very mutually supportive and cooperative amongst all three of us. And then the third event, of course, all day Sunday, is the Sierra Railway Historical and Modelers Seminar. And we'll talk about that also later. So, John, if you could advance the slide.
Certainly.
So first is the West Side Reunion. It's a format that's been followed, like I said, for 35 years. The doors open at 9 o'clock. There are a number of presentations. I've just given you a sampling here, but both modeling and prototype mining and especially logging topics. There are displays. There is a model contest. There are vendors. Tickets are $25 in advance, and you get those by either going to the Westside Reunion website, which you see the address for there, or you could email Frank Markovich at the email address you see there.
Hey, Glenn.
Sure.
I'm going to do something a little bit unorthodox here. I just noticed that Frank is sitting in here waiting to come on.
Okay.
What if I bring him on and we'll pick this up?
Sure.
I don't know how long let me bring him up real quick and see if we can do this. Hi, Frank.
Hi, I've been on for 40 minutes.
What?
Hi, Frank.
40 minutes?
Let me in.
Oh, boy. I didn't see you down there before. I apologize if I failed to add you.
You know, I'm on a Mac, and I had to download, Mozilla, so maybe that's why.
Oh, well, Frank, the good news is you're here, and I have the Westside Reunion slides that you sent me, and I can bring them up where Glenn left off, and then we can pick back up, I should say, with Glenn when you're done talking about Westside. How does that sound?
That sounds great, John.
Okay. Now, we've already gone through the 35 years and all that, so what I'll do is I'll bring it up at the clinics. How about that? There we go. Is that pretty much where you left off, or should I go back one?
No, go back, because I want to talk about a little bit about the history. How do I make this bigger? There we go. There we go.
It's a common question.
Yeah. So I wasn't part of the original, but Glenn Tyre, he did it at his house, and you can see it didn't start with very many people, and it just grew. And I started right after they moved out of there going. I would have gone back then, but I didn't know about it. Okay. So that was 86. And it's gone through a number of people. John Swiger did it for a number of years, and I assisted him. And then I took it over when he said he couldn't do it anymore. Next slide. And there you can see Glenn lived in Sonora, and he saved a number of pieces of rolling stock. And I didn't put it in here, but John Swiger, when the West Side made more than it cost, which was in the early years, he used it to help restore some of the equipment. And he had to leave it when he moved to Colorado because it was just too much for him to run it from there, and the cost was prohibitive. Okay, next slide. This will be this year we're going to be at the Black Oak Casino Resort. It's the Black Oak Hotel. And I want to warn people that the parking is a little bit of a problem. if you're a vendor, only in that in the front of the casino hotel, the hotel itself, they're putting a pool. So they've got it. You can unload if you're staying there. You can bring your luggage in and then move it. There's a parking structure, and they will drive you. They have this shuttle that goes back and forth. I just did it last weekend. We were up there for a few days for another event, and it's really convenient. But if you're loading equipment, if you're a vendor, you need to go down below. There's a driveway down below, and you can load it. It goes right in. So far, I've rented 18 or 19 tables. I didn't pull it up right before, and I can rent another 5 or 6. That's it. So, and the Tuolumne group, Glenn and John Zach are going to use 2 tables, and I don't know how many are going to stay over for their event. So the first thing we're going to have is Guy Cantwell is going to talk about modeling in the West Side area. He models the Sierra, and he's going to talk about the various topics and some of his techniques for graphs. If you haven't seen his layouts, it's magnificent. And then Jeff,
I should cut in for just a second right here, Frank, and mention that we have a layout tour of Guy Cantwell's layout right here on the channel. It's called the Willoughby Lines, and he's a really fantastic modeler, just to add on to what you said. Please proceed, sir.
him and I share a lot. We were both community college music teachers, guitar teachers. So anyway, and then Jeff Johnson, who probably most of you know, he's going to talk about donkey engines, and he models a Sugar Pine Lumber Company, and he's got quite extensive knowledge on that. Then we will take lunch. Now people are confused about lunch. The hotel has for lunch 2 restaurants. I'm going to bring this up because Glenn probably doesn't know all of it. They have 2 restaurants, one that's downstairs in the casino that's like pizza and stuff like that. It's pretty good. And then they have a regular cafe type place upstairs in the casino. But there's a lot of other options. You can drive 5 minutes from there and get to Cover's Apple Ranch, which has full menu and is very good. You can go to the, in Tuolumne, there's a market. It's probably a little far to walk, but not more than a mile at the most, that makes fantastic sandwiches. We've eaten there. There's a coffee area upstairs above where we're meeting that has quite a bit of food, but it's more like, bagels and, egg and bagel type thing. But they have quite a bit. We've eaten there, both my wife and I. And lastly, at the where the gas station is, which is literally 100 feet from the room, they have ready-made sandwiches. They have hundreds of them almost, and other items to eat. So eating, it should not be a problem. Then at 1 o'clock, Mike is going to talk about modeling tools and fixtures. Now, he's a professional builder. He did a lot of the tools, probably most of them, the page just changed. Most of the tools for Foothill Models Works, and he's very good. And lastly, although it isn't last, will be the West Side Stump to Dump, and Adam's going to talk about that. And he's pretty much an expert. Now, we've put that the doors will close at 4:30, but vendors will start tearing down at 4. We need to be ready for the banquet. Now, if you want to sign up, you can do PayPal or you can send a check. I don't have Venmo. I have Venmo. I haven't figured out how to use it. So that's my problem. I'll have to do that. And it's $25 entry and another $20 if you want a table, and more to each table's $20 is basically what it is. And I usually give historical groups like the Tuolumne Library a free table if they ask for it, but so far nobody has. There'll be plenty of time for seeing the vendors. If you look at the schedule, there's at least a half hour between each presentation, and after the last one, before the teardown, we'll announce the contest. So there is a full contest, 6 categories, and there will be plaques awarded, and there will be ribbons. So that's West Side.
Cool. All right. So let's bring Glenn's here. If I can wrangle this stuff. There we go. You're back on stage again, Glenn.
All right. Well, since this West Side slides up, I'll just call your attention to the fact that the West Side Reunion website and Frank's email address are shown there. So if you have any questions about it, contact Frank.
Also, just one last thing. Let me know if there's any issues with the website. Joe and I are doing it, and we've had a number of issues. I think we've corrected them all. We're trying to get the banquet up there, but we're having trouble with that.
Well, thanks for sharing, Frank. I remember from going the last couple of times what a great event it is that you put on. So I'm looking forward to it once again.
Okay, let's move to the next slide then, please, John.
All right, then. Is that the correct one?
Yes. So the second event, and now this is sponsored by the THRA, is the inaugural version of the Historical Railroad Banquet. This starts Saturday evening at 6 in a room immediately adjacent to the room in which the West Side Reunion will be held on all day Saturday, and the same room will be used Sunday by the Sierra Seminar. But the banquet will be right next door there, and it'll feature a buffet dinner where you have your choice of beef or chicken with a vegetable, potato, dessert, soft drinks, a full meal. And then the highlight is going to be a presentation by Scott McGee, who is the general manager of the Yosemite Mountain Sugar Pine Railroad, which is at the south entrance to Yosemite. And their primary motive power for that excursion railroad are 2 former West Side Lumber Company shays, numbers 10 and 15. And so Scott's presentation will be on those 2 locomotives, both historically as they have served on the West Side Lumber Company, and then under the current operation. They operate on a regular basis, pulling excursion trains there all summer long, actually from about March through November. I think Scott told me about 60,000 passengers last year. And he's going to give us a real in-depth story on those. Scott is a very hands-on kind of guy, and he knows those shays inside and out. He's going to talk about not only their history, but the characteristics of each locomotive, major rebuilds over the years, recent discoveries about the paint colors and lettering schemes that they uncovered when they were doing major work on the locomotives, and then ongoing maintenance issues. I talked to Scott just a few days ago, and at that point, neither locomotive was fully back in operation. They were addressing further maintenance issues. So he said his presentation is still being written, as is the subject matter for it as we speak. But Scott's going to give us a great look at those 2 locomotives. After that, another highlight is going to be a raffle. Scott very generously donated what we are calling the West Side Shay Lovers Dream Excursion for 4 people. And this will consist of 2 people getting a cab ride, 2 additional people getting a first-class ticket. And a first-class ticket means that they get to ride in the recently renovated caboose that is now their first-class accommodation. And that caboose was built on a former West Side camp car. And they unearthed it at another location, brought it down to their railroad, completely refurbished the caboose, and it's beautiful inside and out. And so One Vision, you can use these 4 tickets however you want, but One Vision is if 2 couples wanted to go, probably the 2 railroad fans in the group would take the cab rides, and the 2 others, the 2 spouses, would ride in the caboose. But those are the 4 tickets. And then this prize also includes a behind the scenes tour of the shops and other facilities at the Yosemite Sugar Pine. And they do have a number of West Side artifacts that are kind of on display back in the shop. So currently, tickets to the raffle are available only to those who are simultaneously reserving tickets to the banquet. The raffle tickets will be available separately on the day of the event during the West Side reunion, and you need not be present to win. But currently, if you want to buy tickets to the banquet, you can either go to our website, the THRA website that you see on the screen here, and there you can either purchase them online with a debit or credit card, or you can download a mail-in form that you could send in with your check. If you are a member of THRA, and we'll talk about that in just a second, you get a $10 discount, but to everyone else, the ticket price is $60 a person. If you buy the raffle tickets in advance, we have a special advance purchase deal where you get an extra raffle ticket for free. So check that out on the website. As far as the banquet tickets, you do need to purchase those by April 10th or before they're all gone. We have a limit of 70 seats for that, and we're around 50 currently sold. So we do expect to sell out. Even if it's not sold out, we need to cut them off at April 10th to tell the caterer the number that we have. So that's the historical railroad banquet Saturday evening.
Gotta say something, Glenn, that you've done an incredible job finding not only a great speaker, but I can't think of anything more relevant to the weekend's festivities than this prize for the raffle. I mean, that's about as relevant as anything I've ever seen before. So good job.
Yeah, and I've got to tell you, the raffle tickets have been selling well. I don't mean to tell people their odds aren't good of winning, because we want to sell more. But yeah, that's a popular prize. And there will be a few other smaller prizes, but that's clearly the grand prize.
Sure.
Okay, then if you want to move on to the next slide, we'll move on to Sunday's event.
Here
And
we
that's
go.
and I forget which one, but it's roughly the 15th annual Sierra Railway Historical and Modelers Seminar. Most people just call it the Sierra Seminar. The doors will open at 8:30. As always, we will have coffee and donuts included in the registration price. Then a
Donuts.
series of presentations. I've just listed a sampling here. Kyle Wyatt, who is the former curator of the California State Railroad Museum in Sacramento, will talk about Sierra Railway passenger trains over the years. Lisa DeLacy from State Parks will talk about Sierra Coach number 3, both from a historical and a restoration standpoint. And then Hunter Lose is going to be talking about the last day of steam passenger operations, which was December 31 of 79. That's before the State Parks took over the operation and started running its own excursion trains. As with the West Side reunion, we do have tables for displays and vendors. We do not charge extra for tables at all. Some of the West Side vendors carry over, so you'll see their stuff again, but other people come in, and the tables are free, as I say, but on a first come, first served basis. We'll also have soft drinks available throughout. Frank talked about the lunch options, and another option is you can just bring your own if you prefer, but whatever lunch option you choose, you're welcome to bring it back to the room, and we'll have soft drinks available all day long. And we're probably going to have some sort of a video or something going during the lunch hour to have as background for people eating their lunch. The cost of the seminar, if you pre-register, is $25. That includes all the food as well as the presentations. If you're a THRA member, you can take a $5 discount. Those prices go up by $5 if you come at the door. To register for that, you can also go to our website that you see here and either pay by debit or credit card and register right online there, or you can download a mailable form to send in with your check, Or if you have questions or you just want me to send you a registration form, you see my email address there, and you could just email me and I'll be glad to get right back to you.
Cool.
And then if you don't mind, John, advance it one more slide. Just a little sales pitch on the THRA. As I mentioned, we're a 501c3 organization that was formed a couple years ago to enhance the preservation of the history of all the railroads of Tuolumne County. We were focusing on these two, but there were also the Hetch Hetchy Railroad and the Pickering Lumber Company Railroad, and literally about a dozen different railroads operating in Tuolumne County in the first half of the 20th century. At the Westside Reunion and at the seminar, we will have THRA merchandise. We have polo shirts, t-shirts, coffee mugs, that sort of thing. We'll have that available. We'll, of course, be offering memberships, and you can join for as little as $35. All of the money goes to support our efforts to preserve railroad history. And you can, again, join or renew your membership either online at our website or download a form, or again, email me if you have questions about that or want me to email you a registration form.
Something else I should. Oh, I'm sorry, Glenn. I
one final thought on the hotel. The final slide will give away. We've arranged for discounted rooms to people that are attending these events. It's in the town of Tuolumne. It's right on the edge of town. And incidentally, that is the upper end of the Sierra Railways line and the lower end of the Westside Lumber Company's line, because that's where the Westside Lumber Mill was located. And all three events are in the same basic big room. There are restaurants available, as Frank mentioned. The discounted rooms, they've been very popular. We've had to expand the block twice now. And as of the last knowledge I had from the hotel, there were 12 rooms available, but they were going quickly. The discounted rate is $169 plus tax. Right before I came on, I tried to log on and get a room, and it said they were having trouble finding them. So they may be getting scarce, but I believe there are still some rooms available under this block. They are not available online. You have to call the hotel at the number you see there and either use the booking code 7880, or if you mention Westside Reunion or Tuolumne Railroad Weekend, they could find that block and book you a room if they have any left. So it's going to be great to be able to stay right on site and have all three events in the same place.
What I was going to say,
I'm out of words.
What I was going to say, Glenn, was we did a whole show of this show, a whole episode that was all about the THRA right when it was getting formed a couple of years ago. So if anybody's interested in hearing more of that backstory, they're welcome to look back through the Talking Trains playlist and find it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, just FYI for people.
If they want to just get a quick overview of what we're about, they could just go to our website and see a description, see who's on the board of directors. We have a very diverse, but I think very qualified board of directors. So
it's an all-star cast, Glenn. Let's just be honest about it. I call it an all-star.
I'd agree.
Yeah. So cool. Well, I'm excited. We're going to be there, and I'm really looking forward to it and seeing Scott again. It'll be a real fun time.
It will. It will.
Yeah. Thank you for coming to share. We definitely appreciate that, and hopefully we'll get more people coming now.
Sounds good. We appreciate it too, John. Thanks so much.
All right. Talk to you soon.
Okay. Bye.
Thank you. All right. So there's one more event that we'd like to talk about now, which is the PCR convention coming up next month. I do want to mention something else that's coming up before I forget, and this is important to me because it's kind of one that's personal to me, which is the South Bay Historical Railroad Society is having their spring open house on April 6th and April 7th. That's the first weekend of April, and it's always a great event. It's a really good event, especially for families and that kind of thing. So, and that's, I think, from 10 to 5 on Saturday and 10 to 4 on Sunday, something like that. The key is get there at 10. The cool thing about it is that everything's open. I mean, the library, the waiting room, the boardroom, both layouts, the tower, the private rail car that's parked alongside the depot there, all of it's open. And also they have a great resource for people who are getting started in the hobby, or for people who want to get some inexpensive equipment to practice on. We have what we call our general store, which is where during the year people donate stuff to the organization, and then we sell it at our general store at our open houses. And it's a great place, like if you want to get some kind of, cheap rolling stock to practice your weathering on, or maybe you have a son or a daughter who's interested in getting started in the hobby, you can get inexpensive equipment at the general store. And I believe all of it's tested to make sure it works as well. So if it's marked as it works, that means someone has tried it.
Right.
So
It's a great way to fill out your rolling stock for making up trains and that kind of stuff.
sure. You've been to the open house, haven't you?
I have.
Yeah, I thought so. What were your impressions when you went?
Oh, it's a marvelous facility that you guys have, with all the historical stuff on display and a couple great layouts.
Mm-hmm.
And it was fun actually going up into the tower the one time I was there with you guys and actually watching trains go by and that sort of thing.
Staircase might have been a little scary,
Yeah,
but
it's a little bit.
It's
Yeah.
good once you get up there. Anyway, so I do want to tie that in with something else. So part of the PCR convention is the evening, basically preceding the commencement of the, boy, that's a lot of big words, of the event. We're going to have a get together at the SBHRS, as a matter of fact, but I don't want to give all that away. Let me bring Phil on. Phil, welcome back. Glad to see you here.
Super, thank you.
Yeah. So now
Of
we
course,
have
in the best laid plans, we had a whole bunch of folks come back and say getting over and back was going to be a challenge. So we're actually going to have a reception at the hotel and also ask the SBHRS to be open at the same time. So
I
you
didn't
don't
know
have
that.
to go over. Yeah, it turned out there were enough folks. Plus, there was this pesky little thing called alcohol. And it turns out you can't serve that if you do something at the SBHRS, because the liability rules are such that it makes it virtually impossible to serve alcohol now to anyone
Got it.
unless you're related. So at the
Something
hotel, that'll be available. So
Sure. Something I just noticed is that your slides disappeared off of my slate of stuff that I can add. I think it may have just popped back on.
hang
No,
on,
it
I'll
didn't.
just share. I'll just share.
Okay, that'll work.
Cool. Yeah, so I think what John wanted me to do is I just talk a little bit about the convention very briefly. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here, and just talk very briefly a couple of minutes. So first off, April 24th to 28th. I was never sure he'd actually say that. That's just about a month away.
I found it.
We're at the 20th of March. 20th of April, really 24th is not that far away. So we're almost there. It's time to really look at your calendar. I hear from everyone, I don't know what I'm going to be doing. I'm not sure. It's just time to lock it down. If you don't know what you're doing next Saturday, that's a good excuse for waiting a little longer to lock things down. So very briefly, we're in Silicon Valley. This is right at what's called the corner of the Golden Triangle, right north of San Jose. I thought it was interesting. We're at $139 room rate. We're cheaper than going up into the casino in the mountains. So if you're coming down, it's great, and it's no parking. The parking is included. It's free parking, no resort fees. So very easy from that perspective. Why do you want to come? And I tell you to go up at the end. We got a link, and go up to the website and check the website out. We'll be having each day, there will be 2 layout tours, except Saturday, which is one big tour in the East Bay. What you kind of see here is where those tours are. Thursday, north and south. Friday, north and south. And what you see over here on the right is kind of a typical map for a tour, which shows you where the layouts are. By the way, all this info is up on, if you go up on the website, you can see it up on the website. We've also closed on our clinics. So this is actually the clinician list. It's up there with all the details about the clinics. what you'll notice here is you actually see here which room each of these is going to be in. You'll notice this is the virtual room. One of these things we did was for everyone who was in the virtual convention, they had an opportunity to go vote on their preferred clinics. We actually took those and weighted those, and we came to the group of clinics that are in the virtual room based on that. We also have a workspace room, which will be for clinics that are make and takes and those kind of things. So we have a couple of pretty cool make and take clinics as well. The prototype tours are going to be absolutely excellent. We're going to do Niles Canyon on Friday. That'll be a shop tour, a yard tour. We'll start with lunch. They're going to do lunch for us, and they're going to be running the M200 rail bus, so you can ride the rail bus while you're there as well. So kind of an afternoon in the shops. If you haven't been there, they have, I think, 22 or 23 pieces of motive power, about 40 pieces of rolling stock. It's a pretty amazing operation that they've built through the years. Then on Thursday, we'll be at the Society for the Preservation of Carter Railroad Resources. That's the SPCCRR at Ardenwood Park. They're restoring and rebuilding the Carter Brothers cars, which were the narrow gauge cars that in many ways drove that revolution that you're talking about in terms of the West Side Reunion and the Sierra Seminar. Those railroads were driven by the Carter Brothers. So this is how do we preserve that history of the Carter Brothers cars and the other pieces. The thing that I think really for this group is the virtual convention. So the virtual convention will be the 25th to the 27th. That's basically Thursday through Friday. We have one clinic track. You saw there the clinics. You can see exactly which ones will be available and when. There will be a contest room tour by MMRs. There will be a participant view of the prototype tours. John's going to do that, so you'll be able to see what those prototype tours are all about. We're going to have a virtual train show, so we have some virtual vendors in, and then we'll have breakouts, vendors, associations, topical. I've just had an interesting discussion about potentially having a breakout about Wi-Fi in DCC and next generation solutions. Very interesting area. And then Saturday afternoon, we'll have more virtual clinics and breakouts as well. So really, this is 3 days of great fun. We're up to about 60 attendees. I think we're going to get quite a few more by the time the convention starts. But it really will be an opportunity to do something that won't feel either like this meeting, like this event, or your typical Zoom meeting. The way we do this is we take advantage of this breakout feature. So you can have a gathering room that becomes the clinic room when the clinics run. Basically, the clinics are in the morning from about 8:30 to a little afternoon, 6:30 to 9:30 in the evening. So when the clinics are running, the clinics will be in this room, but then there will be breakouts for different times. Clinic goes on breakouts to talk to the clinicians. There'll be special interest breakouts in the afternoon when there are no clinics, and some of these vendor train show focus breakouts. So opportunities to meet with vendors. I think the thing that's really exciting is that we've really taken most of the value set of the convention and tried to put it together in some way so you can access it and do it virtually. And because of the way the breakouts are, you get great opportunities to go participate in discussions. For example, there may be 3 vendors in a breakout, and you can actually go and talk to all 3 vendors within an hour and say, I was looking at this product. Tell me more about it. What products are you coming out with? So it's an opportunity to have some of those great conversations in the virtual train show. You get to see the clinics, one clinic track, get to see what the prototype tours look like, see what the contest room looks like. So really an opportunity to participate. And for you that are part of the TSG community, if you use the code PCR, capital P, capital C, capital R 24, when you go ahead and register, you get a $10 discount. So we're only charging $30 for the virtual convention. It's not really intended to make money. We like to just pay a little bit because, quite frankly, if you don't have any skin in the game, you really won't value it and probably won't show up. But what we try to do is keep it so it essentially is a no-brainer. I mean, what can you do for $20 and you get basically 3 days of modeling fun? What's interesting is that if you are more local, let's say in Northern California, and you say, well, I can't come down to the convention. I work on Thursday and Friday. What we can do is you can buy the Saturday day pass. That's $60. Try PCR 24. I think you may get a discount. And then you can come to the convention on Saturday, but we'll give you all the codes for the virtual convention on Thursday and Friday. So Thursday and Friday, you can go to the virtual conventions, see the clinics in the evening, and then just drive down on Saturday, see all the layouts that are open Saturday afternoon, go to the vendor area, buy some things, etc. So that was about all I had, John. Hopefully that's a good introduction, and hopefully we'll see more folks come to the convention. It's I think it's the last chance you're going to see to do something at the kind of cost structures that we were able to this year. And we have some pretty amazing layouts that are going to be open and opportunities to see things. So look forward to seeing everyone.
Thanks, Phil. I'm not aware of anywhere that has $139 rooms anywhere,
Yep.
let alone here in Silicon Valley. So
Absolutely.
did a good job finding a place for that.
Yep, like I said, last time around. So yeah, it's been fun. We've had some events, we had some good events, and we get a chance to sometime we'll talk about some of the events we've actually had in the coast out here recently. So
yeah. Well, I'm hoping that we'll have time maybe on the next episode of this show next month to do one last final push to get people to join the virtual convention, at least, because we're doing a lot of work to make sure it turns out well, and it looks like a great slate of clinics as well. I was pointing some out as we were watching your presentation of friends of ours,
right, Dave
right?
Falkenberg,
right, and coincidentally, our featured guest that we'll bring on here in a couple of minutes is one of our clinicians as well, which is pretty exciting. Right. So there's a lot of great tie-ins on this program to all these events too. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that's, one of the things that really is true, that, if you look at the clinics that are there, in this virtual track, there are some great clinics in there, great opportunity to see, the clinic, for example, of building the Palmer Union Station, which was building a very unique station at an HO scale. That's a stone rock station, and understanding how to do it. That was absolutely an excellent clinic, and seeing that and being able to see that remotely would be great. And obviously people like Jack Burgess there. You talked about Guy Cantwell earlier, his builds. So
yeah,
some great opportunities.
Guy's getting around this month. He's going to be up at the West Side Reunion doing a clinic up there. Yep. He's going to be doing some clinics for us at the PCR later on in the month. It's pretty exciting stuff. So
he's probably getting ready to get his MMR done. He's got to get those clinic hours in.
Could be.
Cool.
Also, I noticed another soon to be MMR that is also on our clinic list is our friend Paul Deese. So lots of very good modelers and very good clinics coming up for that. So
absolutely. So we look forward to seeing everyone. Go ahead and get registered, and don't miss this. Don't be the person who sits back a year from now and says, "Gee, I wish I'd gone to that," because it's hard to get to the next one, and the next time around it may be, significantly more money. So
do you know what it's like, Phil? If you're at the train shop and you see that model that you need for your layout, buy it, because it won't be there next time.
That's right.
And it'll probably cost more.
And
it'll cost more.
The way it is. Yeah. So look forward to seeing everyone. It'll be fun. So thanks again, John, and we'll see you guys in a couple of weeks then, a few weeks then.
Sure. Yeah.
Take care, Phil.
Bye now.
All right. And that brings us to, unless you have further commentary.
No, it would look like a great list of clinicians. Yeah. So Seth Newman was on there.
Yep.
Jim Providenza. There were just a whole lot of people there that are really great presenters.
Local legends. Well, yes. For me anyway. All right. So I want to bring on what I call our featured guest. And this is another legend. It's a legend in the making for me. This is our friend, Mike Osborne. And Mike, there he is. Hey,
how you doing?
Looks like you have your work gloves on. What was that?
Well, we're trying to get this SD45 to the house, and we're going to tie up and go to beans.
Awesome. I like the beans part the most. So
that doesn't everybody.
I saw your name on that list too. And are you going to talk about the clinic that you're going to be doing, or what's our?
Yeah, I'm basically the clinic I've been working on. I want to get people more involved in the way that the prototype operates, and I see people operate, and I know everybody's spending gobs of money on locomotives and things, and to me they run too fast. They're not making what I call sliding meets, stopping, in the right places to do certain works. And I just want to give everybody a good general idea of what we do on the railroad and how we do things and why we do things.
Well,
And
I
I've
think,
been doing it a long time, so hopefully
yeah,
share some of that knowledge.
I put a nice description in our video. I don't know if you saw it. It took all the brain power I had that evening when I was typing stuff to come up with something that sounded good. But maybe if people like me watching can't read, maybe you could tell us about yourselves to give us an idea, right? Because I know the backstory, and I know that you'll know what you're talking about when it comes to operating stuff prototypically. So,
Right.
I mean, maybe tell people about your background and
Yeah, sure.
about your layout, right? So,
Right. Well, let's start with the prototype. Actually, I'll start. I wrote down some things. I'll say I started model railroading. I had an American Flyer set when I was a kid that my dad bought somewhere used, and me and my brother would play with it. And then we got into HO and Tyco, of course, and AHMs and all that stuff. Then I had a, a deal with N Scale for a while, for probably about 5 years. And I got all inspired by the East Glasstop Railroad, if anybody remembers that project railroad that model railroader used to do. But I actually sort of built it when I was a kid, and of course ruined all the N-scale remote switches by trying to ballast them, because I've always been a persist for like realistic looking stuff. And then I got back into HO, did a Cajon Pass layout for a while at my parents' house, and eventually when I moved out and we started to lay out my first home, and some of the layout is still in the current house I've been in now for going on 35 years. And it's a 16 by 18-foot layout, which encompasses the garage. It's all air conditioned and everything, dual level, helixes going everywhere, as John can attest to. A lot of stuff switching that is based on stuff here in the Los Angeles division, and things I've worked with, and trying to let modelers operate like we do at these specific industries on the railroad. And as far as my railroad career, I started working for Southern Pacific in 1979. I'm going to be starting my 45th year here in May. And I've always worked as a brakeman. And of course, you get promoted to be a conductor, but you work different jobs over the years. And sometimes you're a conductor, sometimes you're a brakeman. I'm currently a brakeman in Oxnard, California, on the LOF 63 job, which some people, if you want to Google that or YouTube it, last week we took a SD70 AC on the old Santa Paula branch, which was quite a move for everybody to photograph, and all the local rail fans went pretty crazy out there, and there's a ton of stuff on that. But it's a job. We have a Procter & Gamble toilet paper factory and Brawny factory that we work with. We pull automobiles out of the harbor. We don't actually go to the harbor. There's another railroad called the Ventura County, and they bring the autos up to downtown Oxnard. Then we basically pull them across the street, shove them in our yard, and then a mainline train on the old coast route picks them up 4 times a week. And their other industry is a box making factory, International Paper, for the fruit industry. And we have a very large lumberyard called Hagel Lumber in a place called Somas, California, which is by Camarillo, California. And then some various little, there's a place that packs strawberries and frozen fish and the ARMN cars and ships them all over the United States. So basically that's what our job does. As far as the railroad, The SP, I've worked lots, like pretty much every job in Los Angeles, and then going to Yuma, of course, Long Beach, up to San Luis Obispo was part of our job originally, Bakersfield lots of times, and I got to know John through the NMRA convention. We did a video for the keynote speech, which John added all the photographs to. It's worthwhile. It's Mike Osborne brakeman on the Southern Pacific LABRF. We've had some pretty good response to that. It's about an hour long, 45 minutes or something,
I think
with a lot of nice pictures.
I think I added
Go
a
ahead.
link to that in our description for this video.
Okay, great. Yeah.
Should be pretty
Great.
easy for people to find.
Yeah. And
I have a question, Mike. Can I interrupt
Sure.
just 1 second? I have a question. So, and I don't know if they still do this, but I don't know. A few years ago, I would go out sometimes to the coastline because I live very close to the coastline, and every so often, about maybe once a week, they'd send an entire huge train of empty auto racks down the coastline. Was that going to load the cars that you're talking about? Is that where those auto racks were? Is that related somehow? Do you know?
Yeah, those empty auto racks, I think they were excess ones. I'm not really sure about that movement, but I do know what you're talking about.
Yeah, we
I
called
think
it
they're
the auto
probably
rack.
going back east. Maybe they were autos that they were unloading in the Bay Area, whatever your facility up there where they unload new autos. We have a couple huge ones here in Los Angeles. Ford has one. There's a GM one that SP had for a long time in City of Industry. But now they're sort of consolidated. I worked at the auto parts plant making the Chevrolet Camaro plant in Van Nuys, California, at our yard Gemco, which I've done clinics for over the years, and different NMRA clinics and LD SIG clinics and OPSIG clinics, and we've talked about that yard entirely, and that closed in August of '92. But that was a kind of a fun job. A lot of people didn't like it. It was a lot of work, but you actually brought in auto parts cars and they shipped out cars, in auto carriers. And so that was but I worked there for a long time.
So, Mike, you mentioned in your beginning thing something about sliding meets versus what we model railroads do.
What the reason I'll give one little instance in that is, so like say at a hill like Tehachapi, if you just come flying into a siding, which you're not going to fly into a siding anyways, but you want to try to, control your speed of your train and just bring it down to a crawl. And so you don't have, a lot of times on the uphill trains, they were barely getting started. So you stopped a train on the mountain and, you were risking not getting started. So guys would creep up there and just creep up 1 or 2 miles an hour and just throttle in and out. And then the other train would come by and they'd go flying. They'd come around the siding around you and you get a green signal and take right off and never stop. And the other reason that let me tell you this really quick. The other reason they would do this, because when I hired out, they had cabooses. And one of the requirements of the cabooses, the rear end crew, I should say, is that you were to immediately detrain upon stopping and start walking the train and inspecting the train for hot boxes, brakes, whatever. So guys hated this, and everybody really hated it, but they would test on this and things. And also now you had to pick up a guy. So now you had to go, maybe go 5 or 10 miles an hour, then slow down to 3 or 4 miles an hour for somebody to get on. And if you're trying to get on a 5-foot ballast slope on a caboose going 10 miles an hour, it wasn't going to happen. But if the operators on your layout, if they would come into the siding slow, whether it be a local or a cab hop, helpers, and just come in real slow and just let the other guy go by and then just keep moving. It can be really neat instead of waiting.
I see what you're saying now. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense to keep the momentum.
Yeah, people know a lot about railroads, but they don't always know why they're doing things they do. And a lot of it's just things like that. And what's kind of funny is once they got ETs into train devices, is a lot of guys still ran like that. But then it would drive you nuts because a lot of times, especially at night, and believe me, probably 80% of my career was at nights, and that, you know, it'd be get in the siding and take a nap. And they actually have a napping policy. Union Pacific has that now, and they say that, you know, one guy has to stay awake and the other people can sleep and all this thing and take a little quick nap. So instead of just crawling up there at this point, get in the clear, stop, take a nap, you know, for 45 minutes, whatever you're waiting for,
Right.
and then wake up, because oftentimes you're unrested. And John, by the way, if you're talking too much, I'll give you a stop signal.
Thank you.
So, that's some of the things. I'm going to go over some things like what all of the basic signals mean, and make sure everybody, you know, kind of understands that the differences on, like on my layout, I have added, you know, all the details, west dual control switches. So I want people to immediately identify that, like I would on the prototype, and go, okay, it's a dual control switch. You cannot throw that without dispatcher's permission. If you're going to enter the main line, you have to know where the main line is. And on the SP, they always used red targets for switches that were coming into the main line, and then yellow targets, they switched targets themselves for the tracks that didn't matter. So you know, you could be a catastrophic incident if you didn't know what you're doing. But it also, I have some electric switch locks, which prevent somebody from entering the main line without authority, those type of things. My friend Jeff Abbott, who John has met, he also has those on his layout. And what we've done is the little push buttons on our layout, we have red for main line and yellow for the siding switches, because we both model SP.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I told you, Mike, but I actually went and operated at Jeff's the day after I operated at yours last time we were down there.
No, I saw it. We're on the same video. And that's another video that John did, or actually it's Wiley's Wonderings. There's a video of my layout and Jeff's, which is a great layout also.
I forgot to link that in the description. So actually, if our,
get on that.
Moderators, if our moderators would get on that, it's the I think the last episode or the last showing of Wiley's Wanderings. I think you can find it in the layout tours playlist if you look for it. And that was
of course, anytime we have an event down here, like I can't think of, the SoCal Ops, and that's coming up again. I'll promote that here in a couple months. The name escapes me, the guy in charge. Oh, Al Donman.
Yeah, it's Al.
He's in charge of that, and that's coming up here. That was 2 years ago that John came to my house, and of course it had to be like 105 that day in June.
Yeah, you said you had air conditioning, but I couldn't remember that part in your layout.
Yeah, I know. Well, there was a lot of hot air coming out of your mouth. I turned it down. You guys went to.
There was a lot of hot air just in the room in general, I think.
That is true. Yeah, I think
you got all of us there.
That's very true. Yeah.
Oh man,
sounds great.
So those are the kind of things I'm going to discuss a lot of. I'm going to go over them real quick, and of course I'll be around, after the thing to ask any questions that people want to ask. And
by the way, I don't remember if we talked about this during our debrief or whatever you call it ahead of time, our pre-meeting. But if someone does post a relevant question, you'll see it appear on the screen there. Let me see if I can find one and make it come on here. Can you see this on your screen?
Sure. Yeah, I see hello.
Yeah. So if you see that pop up, that means someone has asked a question. And
okay.
Since I'm mentioning this, I should mention to the people watching, Mike's been a railroader a long time, and he's also an avid model railroader, as you heard. And if you have a question, something that I always find really fascinating to hear is how real railroaders have taken the job and interpreted it into their own layouts, operations. And believe it or not, you weren't the first one that I've known who does that. There's another guy out here in the Valley named Dave Stanley who worked for WP and CCT and then UP. I don't know if that's the exact order, but he had a long career just like you. I think he was on the trains for like 47 years or something like that. And he has a beautiful layout. called the Murata Belt, which again you can find a layout tour of that video of a layout video.
I've seen that. I've seen it.
Yeah.
He seemed like a real fun guy too.
Oh yeah, Dave's great. I would like to have what I'd really like to do, Mike. This is for a different time. Is have you and him and some other guys I know on here to talk about old heads telling stories, basically, right?
Right.
That would be a lot of fun. So, but Dave did some stuff on his layout that was also prototypical from the job. So
yeah,
I think it's
and
fascinating to hear.
The interesting thing about it when I hired out is they had all the old stuff going on. They had train orders still for at least the first couple years. I'm going to talk about class lights, how those are used properly. Some clearance forms that Jeff uses, like a real SP type clearance form. We're going to talk about a little bit about timetables, how to read them properly. In the days when I hired out, they would just send you anywhere and you just looked at the timetables, milepost. You had to look up all the speeds. Now with the positive train control, you can just, it'll tell you ahead up to, 6 miles, 7 miles ahead, exactly what's the speed's going to be. The elevation, the curves, everything else, the sighting, the signals you're looking at. And, back in our day, you might have get one yellow signal and a red. So you had to, really pay attention. It does make it a lot easier now.
Sure. The days of timetable and train order are long gone.
They are, but I actually worked under them and, stuck my hand out the window. I talk about that a little bit in the video that John not moderated, but did a lot of work on. And that was quite scary. Like in the video, I talk about it, but sticking your arm out the window at 60 miles per hour through that hoop in the middle of the night in a sandstorm in the desert and hoping you're not going to hit the things. A lot of guys would tell you to take a flagpole, that's the flag with the stick on it, and stick that out and then grab it on that. Then it would hoop onto your arm and grab it. And, then you immediately hand it to the engineer and, everybody would read it because it might apply real quickly to go into the siding or whatever. And a lot of times they were quite complicated. I mean, I know a lot of guys like to work with them. I always see that and I go, no thanks. I've been there, done that. It's
once again, it requires reading. Like, what are they expecting from us?
Yeah. That is something that's sort of interesting is when I got hired out, I had like a year and a half of college. So they were looking for people that could read. Because they, believe it or not, they had a lot of employees that were, hardworking guys, but they were starting to crack down. The FRA was starting to crack down on, rules testing and things and making sure people knew stuff. And so they were looking. I mean, I was pretty young when I got hired out, so but they were, they needed people that could decipher these rules. And I would be on trains even, here's a 19-year-old kid basically to them. I mean, I get people now, I go, well, this guy's a kid, and telling them going, this switch is a facing point lock on it. You're not supposed to activate it with other than the locomotive. And they go, I don't know what you're talking about. And then I just say something like, well, if we derail, that'll be your problem. And they always go, well, show me where that says that. And I'd open the timetable because we were trained, and that say, facing point lock, Lancaster, E switch. And they go, oh, okay. Well, you better go line it then, And then later on they'd kind of, break down a little bit and go, show me where all these are now, because these guys were really paranoid about getting fired. And it was almost impossible to get fired on the SP, to be honest. It really was.
Yeah. So, I've heard stories that, if you didn't drink, you couldn't get hired. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, that was a requirement. Yeah. I've had some stories. Yeah. A lot of times, you switch industries. Actually, currently the job I'm on, years ago, there was a distributor of Coors beer and they would put like 2 cases on the dock and, we put them on the engine and,
that was for the crew.
Yeah, they were for the crew. Yeah. We started drinking those all day, and I was on a GP9, and we were going up the Ventura branch, which is in Ventura, California, and you're on those like old Jeep engines or any engine for that matter, you're supposed to go down face first down the ladder. And but they're the way they're set up, everybody wants to go downstairs, you know, facing looking down, right? Not backwards. But anyway, so I went down, you know, like you would a normal stairway, of course, a very steep stairway. And I had a little bit of mud on my boots, and I just got to about the second step, and that was as far as I went, and went right on the ground and fell down in the fields. My railroad watch, the thing came off, the band broke, and then they kept going. They didn't see me fall off because the high hood units, that, you know, they were talking, and finally about a quarter mile away, they stopped at this gate, and that's the reason I was getting on the front. And they start blowing the horn like, where is this guy? And here I come sauntering up. I'm covered in mud, broken watch. What happened? Oh, I fell off. You know, they go, oh, you okay? And I go, yeah, I'm okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I made it here, right?
Yeah. But yeah, you had to be careful. Yeah,
Well,
we had big parties and hotels and things, and you know, it got pretty crazy. They had a couple of big wrecks too, and that's when the partying stopped.
We need to make sure that people understand this happened in the SP days. So if anyone from UP is watching, that was before.
It's not happening anymore.
Hey,
Yeah.
hey, they still occasionally somebody gets turned up dirty. It still happens, and you know, we do get the random test. And the worst thing is if you have an accident and then you're dirty. Yeah. That's the worst thing of all.
That's the running joke on any op session is peak up, you know. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in fact, I just remembered that I have a P-cup waiting for John because he never finished the Budweiser switch. He just got cars. After I checked them all out, they were just all everywhere mixed up, and they need. I'm going to be citing you for investigation. I need your address. Can you please have your wife put it on the screen? I'll send you the investigation papers.
Yes. Well, that's one of my favorite op session stories is these guys. This is one of the reasons why I like to do the operations, because everybody is a smart ass basically. And I'm quite a bit of a smart ass myself. So I was working that, what is it? A Budweiser plant or it's
the Budweiser switcher. Yeah.
Yeah. Some kind of a brewery thing. And I didn't know what I was doing because I hadn't received the proper instructions. And so I'm just moving cars around. It's like, oh, I need to get that. I need to get the other. I have no idea where I'm putting them, but hey, you know, I'm having fun doing it. And Jim, our friend Jim Radke, and I forget now, Bill Rose is the guy's name. I had never met him. I had never met Bill before, but I know Jim, and he's a bit of a smart ass too. They kept walking by because I guess they had finished their work, whatever they were doing. They're like, hey, are you having trouble in there? Because it's in that little alcove, right? Are you having trouble in there doing that job? And I said, yeah, we'll see if you guys do this job in the afternoon, how well it works. Well, we went and had lunch. And when we came back, I was walking in to do whatever job I was supposed to be doing on your layout for the second half of the session. And I hear this bickering coming from that little alcove. And I look in there, and it's Bill and Jim arguing over how to switch out the brewery that they were making fun of me for not doing right. So
yeah, the brewery I have on my layout is based on the Anheuser-Busch Brewery in Van Nuys, California. The spot itself in my model brewery holds 11 box cars to load out beer and 6 grain cars for the raw product to make the beer. So and I have a support yard to support all the cars in there, so you're not using the main line, because you end up with a train that's like 15 cars long to take over to the main yard to go to other points, and I'm requiring people to line up the cars just as we did on the prototype. I sometimes have trouble relating to modelers because I am assuming a certain amount of knowledge that a lot of modelers don't have, and you know, because we're a lot of times just given, you know, minimal information. And like I've worked, like our job, you know, I've had people that come out from LA or extra board people when somebody's on vacation or something. The guy will go, boy, this would have took me 12 hours. You guys are just putting cars everywhere in like 3 hours and you're done. He goes, I don't even know whatever is happening here, you know, but
well,
we're so used to it.
Sure. And in my case, I didn't have the railroading knowledge, but I'm also not too bright. So I'm kind of like trying to figure out what's what and where it goes.
Yeah, that is something that drives me and my friend Hans. He was there with that night. When I spent a lot of money on my signal system. I have a full CTC system, and has like 75 signals or something, and everybody knows the cost of each signal, and not to mention the circuitry. But people just not paying attention where the signals are. And my layout's a walk around layout, so you can see the train the whole way, and we drives us nuts. And when I first got it, the signal system, or put some blocks in, I told all of our regular operators, I said, okay, I want you guys to bring over your Pride and Joy engine, your brass engine, your $400 scale trains engine turbine, and I'm going to drive a 3-inch drywall screw on every red signal, and then when you miss it, it will destroy your engines, not mine. And well, that's not fun. Well, I go, that's how it is. You got to be stopping for these signals, just like on the prototype. It's a catastrophic thing as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I suppose you could use, and I think you have this, if I remember right, on part of your layout, a little piece of piano wire that comes up as, like as a break on a siding.
Oh, yeah.
You could have those come up if it's red.
Oh, brother. Yeah, that's an idea. Yeah. Yeah, I know you've been to Lee Nicholas's house in Utah. I saw your video on that, and he has a signal which is a rock slide detector, and he puts a big foam rock right on the track, so it'll be a red signal. And the way these signals work on the prototype is you'll get a red, and it'll have a P on the signal itself, and that means to protect. And if you look in your timetable, it'll say signal 458.3 protects against rock slide detector located at milepost 458.7. So you come around there with your train, if you were on the real train, and curve around the curves, and then, oh, okay, it looks okay, and keep going. Well, his layout, he puts a big fake foam rock, so you would run right into it.
Yeah, he didn't show us the rock. That would have been fun to see.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe somebody stole the rock.
Maybe they got tired of having the red signal, so they took the rock off the layout.
So did he have some kind of a random number generator to determine when he had one of these events?
If I remember,
but I thought that was a really great idea. We had a signal maintainer on the SP. This is a short little story here. And it's like insulators that are on the old-fashioned insulators. They have like a wire. So if the rocks came down, they would knock the wire off the insulator and then create a red signal. So what they would do is, when there was no trains around, the first train that would come by there would be like at 10 o'clock at night. So they would take one of them off, so they knew that it would already be red. And so this is before CTC. This is all ABS, automatic block system territory train orders. So you come around, and sure enough, red signal rock slide detector. And so what guys got wise, what this guy was doing was he wanted a call out to make extra money, because they got like automatic 4 hours pay. So as soon as you reported to the dispatcher, they'd call him at home and go, hey, Jim, go out and repair the rock slide detector at milepost 458.7. And he'd go, okay, great. I'll be out there in a minute, or whatever, however long it took him. Anyway, so this one train crew guys go, you know what, I'm tired of this. So they would just put it back on and then just keep going. And because they knew there was no rock slide. And then he'd be like going, well, why didn't I get called last night? And come out there, it's fixed. But everybody's wise to the railroad.
That's good.
So there's unbelievable amount of people I've worked with over the years. And, the guys, when I hired in the SP, there was Pacific Electric guys still working, and they were protected on Pacific Electric jobs. And now with the UP, there's SP jobs and UP jobs. There's quite a few SP people still around, but the UP people, we can go on anywhere, but the engineers, they have prior rights on their SP jobs and their UP jobs in the LA basin.
Is that partially because they're qualified on those lines as well?
No, it's got nothing to do with it. It's just that they didn't want to. they just want to protect their work, so because the seniority is not always fair, and when you dovetail the seniority, there might be 20 guys ahead of you,
Right, especially if you're
that
being taken over, right, by another
right, like
railroad.
we had a lot more older people than they did, and so we were able to go to a lot more jobs, and the engineers was just the opposite. They had a lot more younger guys, and then the UP, younger guys had more seniority, and then they would come on all the SP jobs. So you might have been working a job for 5 years, and then a UP guy came and took your job away. So, but it all worked out pretty fairly.
Yeah, there's a question
So.
that popped up on the screen there. Dave's wondering.
I didn't see that.
Yeah.
How many signal amps per the layout? Basically, I need to know 6 total for our railroad. Well, of course, you have red, you have green, you're going to have yellow, and I have a flashing red, which means restricting, and a restricting signal. Everybody knows what a green signal. Green. Oops,
Green go,
this
right?
way. Green go, right? Yellow, of course, is called an approach, and when we call them out on the radio, you're required to call any kind of restricted signal out on the radio. So yellow, you don't say yellow. We used to say yellow, but now you say approach. That's the actual name of the signal. And so yellow means the next signal is going to be red. And then, of course, you have red. And then you have what they call flashing reds. I'm doing this really quick, but a flashing red signal is like entering a yard or some unsignaled territory. And that means you can just go by it without stopping. And a lot of high-speed territories have flashing yellows, which would precede a yellow to tell you, like a mile and a half from the yellow, you'd have a flashing yellow, and that would tell you that you're going to come up, so you better start slowing down, or if you got a train that's going too fast, you better start taking action. And so that, and they even have signals that are yellow over yellow, and those would tell you that you're going to be taking the siding at the next location. I will be going over that in my clinic, by the way. So
what system are you using to actually drive all your signals?
I'm actually using the Atlas signal system because I'm not a big computer guy and JMRI and all this stuff, and I don't really want to mess with computers. It's just not my forte. So I had to use something that I want to be able to fix. I don't want to have somebody that, a computer whiz, and then all of a sudden I get mad at him, and then he's not coming over anymore, and sends some bad software to me and spams me, and then it won't work anymore, And so I'm in full control of the signal system. I know how it works, and I've been using it now for 12 years. I've become kind of an expert. I'm helping a new friend on. He's doing a small layout, but I'm using that Atlas signal system, and I use various signal. I find them on eBay, and for all my colored heads and things. But But that's what I'm.
Yeah, I'm curious about that, Mike. So when you say the Atlas system, all I know about Atlas is that they make the models of the signals. Do they actually have a system that you plug into your DCC or what?
Oh yeah, they have a. You don't really plug it into your DCC. It's just a standalone system. It uses a 6-pin like a phone. I don't call them phone jacks. So another name for them escapes me. And they interlock. So you got one here, one here, and then it just feeds the next one and sends the information from that signal back to that signal. And then at your turnout points, you have a divider one because it has to tell you when the turnout's thrown, what that new track is doing. And I have some extensive areas on my layout where you're crossing over 3 tracks, which require like a whole bunch of. I don't know if you remember those, John, but the boards are, 2 feet wide and 18 inches high.
Yeah, no, I do remember your CTC machine is out in the hallway. I remember that.
That's in the hallway, but I mean the actual signal modules. They're about, I don't know, 2 inch. Yeah, they're about 2 inches by 4 inches, and you need one for each head, and then you need.
That all interfaces somehow into the CTC machine, or does it go into a computer?
Well, the CTC machine, I'm using U.S. Signal CTC machine, an old-fashioned one like they would have used in '79. No computer screens. It's all the normal and reverse, and then the east and west. And that one, it shows you where your trains are. It doesn't tell you what train is there, so the dispatcher needs to keep track of the trains. It just has a light on the board, and that's how they did it.
It's just detection,
right? Those are from the 1930s, and they lasted till I think probably the 90s. And we had lots of them in LA. There's one in the one that controlled Tehachapi was in Bakersfield for a long time, in the top of the depot. Rail fans, they walk right up there and look at and talk to the dispatchers and all kinds of things.
Well, whenever I get down there again, put this in your back pocket. I'd like to see how that works, because I'm just curious. I'm not going to build anything or anything like that, but this is the first time I've heard of it, and I don't get, my friend Seth would know everything about what you're talking about.
Right, he does, yeah. And I know Seth too, yeah.
Yeah, he's super nerdy about that stuff, and he'll be the first one to tell you he's super nerdy about that stuff. So I'm just curious from a less nerdy standpoint how it works. That's all. But
yeah, no, it's pretty basic, and it's pretty easy. It all works off a negative ground. I don't want to get too much into it, but it's easy for me to understand. It's all pretty much hardwired. It doesn't require a whole lot of wire. I know there's a lot of neat things out there now. I saw them at the convention in Dallas. Guys are doing, but
someone suggested we should make a video about it now.
Yeah, there's Atlas has got a reputable name. They've been around a while.
Oh yeah,
and they do have support. They have a guy that supports their product, and so it's pretty good.
I've been really happy with everything I've seen from Atlas since I've been into modeling.
Yeah, it's a quality brand. It really is.
Yeah.
So I can't complain.
Consistent. Yeah.
And it's reasonably priced. It's about $25 if you want to call that reasonable. But it's available a lot of places.
Hey, it sounds reasonable to me, but no matter how much it costs, there's always going to be somebody complaining about how expensive it is. You know how that is.
Well, I mean, when I first started doing it, it was like, wow. And then there was like a shortage. They stopped making it for a while. So then I was like, buying N scale boards and putting different resistors on them and things. And then I was getting pretty technical with myself, and I really don't know what I'm doing when I get to that, but it works.
So you also mentioned prototype speeds. Do you do anything special with your speed tables when you're programming your engines?
Well, no, I'm just pretty much, some of my operators do, but I pretty much I've recently purchased over the last 5 years, like 5 scale trains locomotives. So they have the momentum built in the loc sound.
Yeah, they come that way.
Yeah, so I just see people just flying around their layouts, and taking right off and things like that. And if you take your time and go, like my whole layout is like 25 miles per hour, like Tehachapi. So I don't really want anybody going any faster than that. And that just makes the layout last longer, or the whole operating thing. And if you don't know where you're going, you need to be able to stop, and so if you're creeping up to a signal just like we would on the prototype, you're going to be down to a crawl by 500 feet from the signal, and then just slowly back off the throttle and apply the train brakes if necessary, and back off and stop the train. Because obviously you can't run into another train, but that type of thing, But I think people run way too fast. What I see, I know in a video it is agonizing to watch a train go slow. It really.
Well, that's also something that we try to avoid when we're doing layout to our videos.
Yeah.
Someone will say, "Well, we need to switch some cars out." Like, well, why don't we not do it and say we did it and explain that it happens in the next scene after we show some buildings or something? Because people don't. Generally speaking, people do not want to watch switching. It's fun to do, it's fun to do. It's neat to figure out where to put stuff in what order. But for someone to watch that, especially at prototypical speeds, that's not great.
Yeah, it is agonizing, right? And you know, even sometimes like when I'm working, and this is top secret what I'm telling you right now, but like if we don't have our regular engineer, and like he'll pull over a switch, and I know this guy's pretty slow. I'll just tell him to back up before I even line the switch, because I know by the time I know by the time that he gets ready to back up, it'll be lined. You know, he's 40 feet away anyways. You know, back him up. You know, and then line the switch. You know, because it takes. You know, otherwise, you know, I got to line the switch. Stop. Okay, back him up. 3 cars hook. You know, whatever. But
you mean go ahead and back up, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I remember I was working some job somewhere, and some guy goes, "Okay, back up, stretch, ahead." And he's going, "Just one thing at a time, please."
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I remember for a while I was doing Fremo N stuff, and we'd get set up at a show, and I'd look over, and the Lionel layout is like right next to us, and it's doing a pretzel layout, and it's just whirling all around. Had a guy come up because we're running Fremo N with, you know, scale trains and all that. Can you make them go any faster? Yes, but we don't want to. We're trying to watch what it really is like.
Although I'll watch some, you know, Lionel videos, and it, you know, it's just sort of fun in a way. And I was recently got into watching the Addams Family on one of these weird channels, and you know, he'd always be down there with the train, you know, both those little throttles, you know, and of course they crash, and it's always the same crash, but it's always worthwhile seeing.
Yes. It's also one of the first questions you get when you tell somebody you have a layout.
Right. Exactly.
Do you know, like Gomez?
And anybody that works for the railroad always worked for the Santa Fe. Even my mom, the whole time I worked, she goes, "Oh, he worked for the Santa Fe." Because this, you know, railroad, it's got name recognition.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That reminds me of a time I was at a train show, and we had models on the table on display so people could see, you know, with little beacons on it and little DCC lighting effects and all that. And someone comes up to the table and looks at him, you know, kind of, "Oh, cool," you know. And he looks at the guy with the model and says, "How fast do they go?" I'm like, what the hell are you talking about?
Yeah. Well, I had a train. I'm sorry. I actually owned a store for a while.
Oh, did you?
A regular hobby store and a train store. And we used to order, when we ordered F7s for Christmas, we ordered 12 the Santa Fe War Bonnet, the red and silver, and then one of each of every other road name that Athearn had, because they would sell. People just see that engine. It looks like it's going fast, stopped. And they that would just sell. It was funny.
And it seemed like back in the 60s when I did Lionel, that was like every Lionel ad ever was a war bonnet, either one of the old PAs or one of the F7.
Right.
F7s.
Right. Well, I had American Flyer PAs with the war bonnet, and I don't know what happened to this stuff, but it's gone. And but everybody likes it. Nobody wants to see a gray Southern Pacific dirty engine. So
actually, that was
that's
my
the way
favorite
it is.
when I was young.
SP was?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, well, you know,
I think
I do model SP and Santa Fe.
Yeah, I think I used to see SP where I lived out near Stockton. I would see Southern Pacific, Western Pacific, and I think Santa Fe. That was pretty much, and of course, you know, whatever local, you know, short lines we had. So.
Oh yeah, well, Western Pacific there too. Also, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I want to show you guys something really. I think it's kind of funny. Is these were some hats that they gave us. Let's see here. Where is it for the division?
Bigger.
Yeah. So wait a minute. So take a look at this hat.
Hey, is that cactus flipping us off? What's going on there?
That is what I wanted you to notice. So the idea is the palm tree of the LA service unit, the cactus, Mount Baldy, LA service unit. I don't know if that was intentional, but you just I wanted to mention that.
Mike, I don't remember a lot of cacti out in the LA area? Is that just for the
Well,
desert
I
house?
think they, like in Palmdale, all the way to Yermo, they do have the Joshua trees.
Yeah.
And so I think that's where somebody said, draw a cactus. Okay, that's what when you say cactus, everybody wants a cactus, right? It's saguaro cactus. It's the common thing. And the LA service unit never really has gone past Yuma, Arizona, but that's the way it is. So, anyways, I'm also the number one guy in Los Angeles in the seniority roster as conductors.
Oh, did the other guy retire?
Yeah, the guy I worked with, he was the guy I worked with was number one, and then we always go number one calling number two, number one calling conductor one, calling conductor two, and so we'd constantly do that. And
well, not anymore. Although now
there is a guy at Colton that has a little more seniority than me. That's really part of the district, but as far as the north of LA, I'm the number one guy, believe it or not.
Well, you got to be number one sometime in life. You might as well do it now.
Yeah, being number one is better than being number two.
Sure.
I will say that.
Yeah, more ways than one, I'm sure.
Right. I see your the overalls. A friend of mine, a lot of people know, Mike Jarrell. He's done a lot of articles for the SP Historical Society. He's very involved in that, and also the preservation of the Saugus Depot, which is less than a mile from my house. His daughters, his young daughters, they were like 14 and 15, and they had never seen him wear his overalls. So his wife drove down to Van Nuys to give him something at work, and he came off the engine wearing his overalls, and they just started cracking up. They thought it was like a Halloween costume he was wearing.
It's funny. I think I've been wearing overalls for at least 10 years. I worked at Apple, and I would wander through the halls and in my overalls, never had any issues with it at all. Go to meetings with upper management and that kind of stuff. Never had any questions. It was just, you could be casual there, which was really nice.
Yeah. Hello. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. And got a lot of nice comments on it. I don't know. It's really comfortable. You don't ever have to worry about your pants falling down.
Yeah. Well, a lot of guys wore them. They would wear like shorts underneath so they could just take it off, and then they'd be ready to go to the bar.
Sure. Yeah. Or the beach or whatever, or the bar at the beach.
Yeah.
Right. And then, or, just protect your clothes. And actually, those vests that we wear now, the yellow vest, I found out my clothes stay a lot better with the vest on because it's not constantly, it's taking all the rips or the dirt and everything like that. Because I wear one of those radios on my chest. So, you're constantly, keying the mic like this. So you're constantly touching your shirt, and that takes all the dirt and everything. So I can wear the same shirt a couple days in a row and things like that. But
the other nice thing is you always have a place for your phone.
You have a place for your phone, your timetable, your watch card, your watch fob, your pocket watch, your jug, your whatever. That was a big thing back in the day. There was a thing called a watch card. I don't know if you guys ever heard of that, but you had to have your watch inspected once a year, and they would take it to like a jeweler, and then they would clean it and look at it and in this little card, and that was the Southern Pacific test. And they would go, "Oh, I need to see your watch card," and then you'd take it out and they'd look at it, see if it was valid. And it was really kind of an exercise in futility. But I was telling this engineer, I go, "Yeah, I got to take the day off. I got to have my watch card, inspected." And he goes, "Oh, I'll do it right now." And he just forged the guy's name, the guy that did it before on me, and then wrote it down and wrote today's date. And he goes, I go, "Oh, thanks."
But you really wanted the day off, though, didn't you?
Well, not then. It was more fun to work.
Yeah.
It was like a lot of guys that worked for the railroad, maybe not so much now, but back then that was they loved being around all the rest of the people there, and they didn't care. A lot of those jobs were 6-7 days a week, 12 hours a day. So those were your people you hung out with.
Yeah.
And they were your friends and everything else, So we would always go to eat together. They would actually, the railroad would take you to eat especially at night. If you didn't have a place to eat, they would pick you up, take you to breakfast, and then you would wait, and then they come back, pick you up, take you to the train, and that's how it was. You spent the time together. So
Have you noticed have you noticed a big difference, Mike, in over the years of the workplace changing? Or what are some of the changes that have happened that are noticeable
that you can talk about?
Yeah.
Well,
right?
first of all, you have less people.
Right.
So,
they
when
work
I hired
harder.
out, you had an engineer, a fireman most of the time, which is basically was an engineer trainer when I hired out, a head brakeman, a rear brakeman, a conductor. So you had a whole lot more people. Now you got an engineer and conductor. That's it on a mainline train. So you had a ton of more people. So
But how about
so now people are spread out, but everybody, there's still a lot of camaraderie. People help people out, take shoves and things like that. They're getting, 5 times the amount of work out of what they used to get out of their employees. I can tell you right now, we never did any computer work. You just went into the yard and pulled your train by, and the clerks would hand tab it, and that was it. You went home. Now they got everybody playing the computer. Doing. We even have the little handheld. They call them zebras, and you enter the information right there at the customer's site. I mean, that's a real time thing, but so those kind of things, But they have a lot of people. I had a big party. I had a 60th birthday party a few years back, and I had probably half the people there were railroaders, and everybody had a great time, and it was kind of fun because one of the managers came that had retired, and they go, "This is so great getting drunk with the manager," and so, but
cool.
I think it's a lot like some of the guys I worked with and that have retired. They all meet every Tuesdays at a place called Lancers in Burbank. 8 to 10 of them, minimum, and they all have breakfast and hang around and talk railroads. They put them back in a corner because they all yell at each other because nobody has any hearing, and so they don't want them ruining the rest of the restaurant. But they have to yell and go, hey, you, hey, there's John, yeah, there's old John, and so that kind of, they actually take Amtrak trains somewhere once a month. Also, they go to some like down to San Clemente or up to Santa Barbara or up here to Lancaster, and then have lunch and then return back on a train. They're all knocked off about 3 p.m. like any other old farts. And
you ever get any of them to come over to your place to run on your layout?
Most of the guys really aren't interested. A lot of the guys are interested in preservation, though. They work down in there's a railroad museum in San Diego, which John might want to go down there someday. That's kind of a nice, they have a lot of SP stuff, Mars lights. They run at night sometimes. I could put you in touch with him, John, and that's really neat.
Are you talking about Campo?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I got that close to that place, but well, it's a long story. I'll tell you some other time.
Yeah, I'll put you in touch with the guy though if you ever need to. He's a guy I've known for years, and
yeah, that could be cool.
I did a big favor for him, and so or maybe when I retire, we can both go down there, and so a lot of people, there are the guys that are interested in model railroading, but there are obviously a few of them have been down here and stuff. I have my conductor I used to have. I have the Woodland Preezer figure. It's like a big fat guy in overalls, and I go, "There you are, right there, Brad, on my layout." And his wife goes, "Brad, it's time to lose weight." So, but all in all, it's been a lot of fun, and I've made a lot of friends. I talked to an engineer today that's 82 years old, and he retired about 15 years ago. And just call him up and find out how he's doing and stuff today, and had a little conversation.
Did you say that you had some signals or something that you wanted to show with your lantern?
Oh, yeah, I'll give any. And that's another thing that.
Yeah.
That is in. Well, that was in the. I'm doing my whole clinic right now. No, I'm just kidding.
Don't do your clinic if you want.
No, I'm just kidding. I obviously you're still supposed to use some lantern signal. Everybody uses the radio, but I don't know how will this show up. I don't want to make it too bright, but just some basic signals. Let's see here. So this means A head. So you're looking at the engineer now giving an A head signal. So that means to take them forward. And this is reverse, slow circles.
I have a dumb question.
And the faster, go ahead.
If you're telling him to go ahead, how does he know how far to go? Just till you stop doing it?
Well, in the old days, you didn't have radio, so yeah. And then if you go A head, if you want maybe A head like 2 cars, so you go A head. Oops, I'm gonna have to go this way. A head, 2 cars. So then that's all you would do, and they would just go ahead, like say 2 cars over a switch, and then you'd give a easy signal, which means a slow down, and then a stop, which everybody should know that one. And but on my video, I have in LA Yard, they actually had everybody's heard of a herder, which is the person that lined the switches in the yards, and you had to. Okay, I'm going to say I'm going to do like a track 18. So what they would do is they'd go 5, 10, 15, 16, 17, 18, and then highball, A head. And that was your authority to come out of that yard with your train. That's all you got. There was no communication on the radio.
I'd be so afraid of miscommunications because if you blink, you might miss that. So you really have to be on your game, don't you?
Yeah.
And especially when you consider the weight of the machinery and all that, you really have to be careful.
Well, most of the yard jobs were waiting anyways because they knew that they would be coming out anyways, and so they would be kind of waiting for that signal, to come out, and so those kind of things, and they would kind of give you a heads up if you're going to be waiting a while. The yard masters would say something, Yeah, we would, be like 30 cars away, and the conductor would be given a kick sign, which means to go real fast. And then as soon as the brakeman got the pin on the cars, then a big stop sign. The engineer would stop, all the slack would run out, and the cars would go down different tracks. And you had to. That was one thing that's different now than it used to be. Is back then you had to watch all the time. And now you could just tell some guy, hey, line that switch. Hey, line that switch back. Hey, lock it up. And back then, you had to be on your game and pay attention all the time. All kinds of things like, lock the switch, things like that. That meant lock. And, go to the house, go to beans. There was all kinds of fun signals. And
drink that stuff that the chorus guy gave you, right?
Yeah. Have a drink. Yeah. Go home, go to the house.
Right.
This was like line a switch, things like that. And one time a guy gave me this and I didn't know what it meant. And I just let the car roll. I pulled the pin on it. I thought he was giving me a 1 car sign. And what that meant was bleed. The car actually had some air in it. When we were kicking cars, you can't have air in them because they'll stop. And so I thought he meant would have had a little bit of residual air in it. And so he heard it coming because you can kind of hear him go, ee. So he goes, bleed the car off. And I just cut the car off. And he goes, then he kind of told me what it meant. And I go, oh, okay, I get it now. But these guys were all full of hand signals.
Yeah. Well, I know like 2 or 3 hand signals, and they usually come out on the freeway.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah, every so often, if you didn't know what was going on, you see a lantern fly up in the air and then come down. In fact, I eulogized one of my good friends of the railroad. He died of cancer, and he always wanted me to eulogize him because he was a good one at throwing lanterns and starting fights. And when they redid our yard there in Van Nuys, they put new ties in a new rail. They tore everything up and took all the old ballast out. And at his eulogy, I said, I go, yeah, they found 6 of Richie's lanterns buried in the rocks that he lost when he threw them too high up in the air. And there was nothing to, I've thrown lanterns to people and thrown them on the ground or whatever. People that you just get annoying. There was people looking for fights, to be honest. It was sort of a rough and tumble job.
Yeah. I have a question. I want to put this out there because we're starting to get close to our end time here.
Yeah.
We're like 12 minutes out. So the thing is, for people watching, if you have a question for Mike, feel free to type it in and we'll try to get those answered. But the question I have is, and this kind of ties in with this whole thing, we have all these events coming up, and we had Phil on before you came on to talk. And one of the things I noticed is that you are doing a clinic, and without giving away too much of your clinic, because we don't want to have spoilers here, but maybe you could talk to people about what your clinic is going to be about and kind of give people an idea like why they might want to watch it. You know what I'm saying?
Well, yeah, and I think I thought I already discussed that, but a lot of it just like applying the prototype techniques and making people better informed
Right.
on
The answer, Mike, is
on what's going on.
Yeah, we've been kind of talking about that this whole time, but sometimes people come in, later.
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically it's going to be like applying some of the prototype things and what to look out for, the signs along the right of way, putting your signals in the right locations too. I see that a lot. People have signals on the wrong side of the track. They don't in just locations that would make no sense at all. And so those type of things, I want to discuss those with people, and hopefully people with better understanding of those type of things. And there's a lot of things. I'm trying to think of some of the things I've got on my what do you call those things? The slideshow presentation.
PowerPoint.
Not pay-per-view. What do you call it? PowerPoint.
PowerPoint.
Yeah. And the signals. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say one of the things that I had a discussion with some people recently is the use of, track planning. And the point was made, which I think is a very valid point, that a real railroad wouldn't use something like a time saver anywhere on the rail, the old
thing. Exactly.
Anywhere on the railroad, because they're trying to get the job done as quickly and efficiently as possible and move the goods and make the money and all that stuff. And they're not going to develop or plan or design problems into your workday, because they design solutions, not problems. And I think I think at least from a layout design perspective, that's something that's probably worth reiterating. I don't know. It's probably part of your clinic, I would imagine, but
well, actually it really, I wasn't going to get into that, but I could add that in. But like yard leads, you got to have a yard lead. If you're going to be switching the yard, you have to have somewhere to avoid the mainline trains. And even on the real railroad, I mean, we have like a break like around actually after the Coast Starlight of almost 2.5 hours where the main line is ours. But model railroad, you're never going to have that, especially with the frequency of trains. But so I have on my layout, I have yard leads and things like that. Like you can switch the brewery out and never touch the main line. You do not need to go on the main line.
Yeah.
Because it is
it's probably the only thing I did.
No, you didn't.
Never went out. Yeah, never went out to the main.
Yeah. It's just because you need it, and you need to design your things to pull out a certain number of cars, and get them over to the other tracks. And those are things. And a lot of times, I know Dave Bayless, right?
Yeah,
John.
I got to meet him last year.
Yeah, Dave, I met when I was probably 14 years old. We've been model railroaders for a long time, and then he hired on the railroad, and I did. And anyways, he's really into track planning and stuff. But also, he's done clinics on naming the tracks. Every railroad they have. Guys, think about naming your tracks. The yard lead, the old mill lead, or whatever it was. And those type of things. That could be a lot of fun. Drill tracks. Pocket tracks, which are just really short sidings. Places to put the power and get away from it. Like a lot of times, like at like on the prototype, like a train might depart, so they, the switcher would go into the pocket and just wait and let the train depart, and then they'd probably get a coffee break then or whatever, and the train would depart. But yeah, track planning, the layout design sig, I think is what now part of the OPSIG. They've really rehashed that stuff completely, but there's a lot of things like that, and I think by knowing more information on how how the prototype does things, that people would see that. We have a problem on our job though. We have one spur that is off the main line, but we cannot. The spur is over a quarter-mile long, but we cannot clear up there because of the way the CTC system works. So you have to finish your work before you leave there, and it's part of the CTC system, and that could get complicated as far as that. But if there are things like that on the prototype, but they're generally few and far between. Our yard, we use the most yards are built off of sidings, at least. Like our yard, we can go 20 auto racks on one end, and on the other end about 30 racks without touching the main line. So those type of things to make, and then the main line trains, of course, to pick up, they got to make double overs. Our longest track in our yard holds 30 auto racks. The shortest one holds probably 12 racks.
That seems like a small yard as far as
prototype. It is a small yard, and it was never designed for auto racks. It was basically designed around the businesses in that area, a lot of perishable business and canning, that type of thing.
Those would be 40 or 50 foot cars, I would expect.
Comparatively, right. What does your model yard hold?
Well, my model yard is actually quite small because I'm modeling basically a satellite yard to support the GM plant and the local industries. I'm not modeling a hump yard. I'm not modeling a yard at Barstow or West Colton where they're classifying 900 cars a day or 1,200 cars a day. It's just a yard to support the local industries, and that's kind of like the yard I work at. And Gemco yard was the same way. The name Gemco came from General Motors Corporation. So that's why it was called that. And it was built specifically for the plant. You could have two jobs working at the same time to spot the plant, and one job could pull the autos, the other job could put the box cars in, things like that. And but I also want to focus on knowing when to enter the main line, knowing when to call the dispatcher, knowing what to say when you call the dispatcher. I had a semi-new guy recently, and he starts, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the tone thing they have. You can get on your radio, you can tone, and then it puts a little light on the dispatcher's board that says somebody's calling from that area. And he tones the dispatcher, and I go, "Why did you do that?" And I go, "What are you going to say now?" And he goes, "Well, I don't know." And I go, "Then why did you do it? Now you're wasting his time, you're wasting our time, and you're making us look like idiots." He things like that. But those things happen. But I wanted him to know that I wasn't happy, and he was not the guy. He was not the conductor. I was. So I'll talk to the dispatcher. He shouldn't have been doing it. Yeah.
Yeah.
He goes, "Well, I wanted to find out what this,
Yeah, that sounds weird.
I know, but you gotta let people know.
Maybe it was one of those guys looking for a fight. If you hand him a lantern, you might throw your lantern or something.
Oh, he's a super nice guy, but I just sometimes you got to say, "Hey, that's the way it is." In the old days, But like I said, I want identify certain things on the layout, on your layouts and things, and identify where the signal should be, where you should be stopping. Like in a dual control situation, you have to stop behind the signal. You can't stop just in the foul because the switch will lock out. It can't throw. Right. So you have to know how to clear the signal. And I think a lot of people really don't know that. I was over Jeff's layout once, and one of the operators there, he goes, he had a flashing yellow signal, and he goes, he calls the dispatcher and he goes, "Can I go?" And I just kind of go whisper to him. I go, "You can go. That's your authority. The signal is your authority. That they gave you a flashing yellow." Things like that.
That's one of the things that I've often wondered is if I come to, a red somewhere on the layout, as much as I've operated, which is a fair amount, I haven't operated on a lot of CTC layouts. I mean, that are really like strict CTC where you're really following the signals. And the question I have is, so if I come up to a red, I'm supposed to tell them, right? Like, hey, I've arrived at this signal, because they might not know it's red. They might have even forgotten that they left it red or something. You know what I mean? Like, it might sound like a dumb question.
Right. Right. No, it's not. It would be like let's just say on the rear railroad. Let's just say you're out on the main line somewhere, and you pull into a siding, and now or you're pulling down the main line, and it's yellow, red, and you can see a headlight off in the distance coming your way. So chances are you're going to make a meet. So there's no reason to call a dispatcher and go, "Oh, what are we going to be here for?" Well, you see the headlight you're looking at? Yeah, you're waiting for that train. And you could hear them calling, the signals also, saying, they've got a approach diverging approach. You know that somebody's coming, or you're out there listening, to what's going on. Go, "Oh, here's another." You can hear the scanners, the talking scanners go off. You go, "Well, there's another train coming at us," even if you can't see it. But,
right. So,
those type of things. But
that requires knowledge of the line. I'm talking about if I go to someone's layout and I don't know the line, because, often you go to a layout to operate and they're modeling something you've never been to, certainly have never worked on the train there. Would it be appropriate to call the dispatcher and just say, I've arrived at Joe siding and we're waiting on red or whatever? Because you might not see a headlight coming because he might be in the other room or around the corner or something.
Well, yeah, that's true in one way, but then again, in a model railroad, you're probably gonna have a train coming pretty quick. But if you're sitting at a red for a really long time, then give them a call. But in the old days, if you didn't see somebody or hear somebody, we were actually required to. You didn't do a lot of dispatcher talking like they do now. You couldn't get a hold of dispatchers. It was territory where the radios weren't that great then, and so you'd actually walk up to one of those little concrete phone calls or phone booths, and you'd say Pomona dispatcher, and they'd answer. They might answer, they might not, and they go, "Yeah, Pomona, yeah, you're waiting for two east," something like that, and that's all the conversation you have. Nobody sat there and went, "Oh, what kind of coffee are you drinking?" These guys were real abrupt and real busy, and they were probably always sort of angry or something, but that type of thing. But the same thing, they want you to call. They do want you to call on the radio, but say 8927 all stopped at Pomona, and they go, "Okay, you're gonna meet two eastbounds coming. One's at Walnut, one's at leaving City of Industry," things like that. You do have a lot more information, but
right.
And of course with train orders, you had to stop, and you might a lot of times on the train orders, they had train orders and signals. So when the trains, you would be stopping on a green, and then then eventually that train would come, and it would you see the signal go yellow and then red, and then those guys come, and of course you could line them in the siding or. I like that one too. Yeah, that's what I usually do. We stopped at a red. We call that break time. I agree, or nap time.
Right.
And
that particular viewer also works for the railroad. So.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, he does
exactly. A lot of times, we're just gonna kick back, and like I always think it was funny, like the model railroad would always have a thing, you have 15 cars to switch out of Clay Industries. And then run around the train, and you have 5 minutes for the limit. And what do? And you go, "Well, I guess sit here and wait." That's what we do. Yeah. But that's how it was. You're on the hourly, you're on the clock. You're not going to try to like, oh, I put 2 cars here, 2 cars here, and then run around as fast as I can and then get in the clear. That's not how it works.
Well, one of the things I find now at op sessions is it's more fun if you slow down and just, take care of whatever work is in front of you and don't worry about finishing. That was one of the things when I first started operating. I was worried about finishing. I wanted to finish the job. And there was always, don't worry if you finish. I mean, guys die on the hour on the clock all the time, and whoever picks it up next time will finish it. Don't worry about it. Just enjoy the thing that you are operating. And ever since I sort of took that more relaxed approach, I think I have a lot more fun now.
Yeah, and that's how it is the prototype too. A lot of times they'd say, if you came to a place and you didn't know the work, they would say, hey, I go, what's the thing that you really need done, And they would go, we need to have shell done. And you go, okay, well, we'll do shell first. The regular job, these guys, like I was saying, they got cars going everywhere. They know all the work. They know what end they got to be on, what cars they don't need. And then other things is a lot of times the cars could be spotted in any order, but it'll have little numbers on where you're supposed to put them. But, if you're new, you don't know that. So you start putting them on specific spots. And that takes a lot of time when you start doing that. But like that viewer just said, oh, red signal. Oh, okay. See you later. Yeah. I mean, you'd be on the verge at night of constantly falling asleep all the time. So, my worst thing that would happen to me on the LA division was I would go to work at 4 a.m. on some train, and you'd have a short day, and you would get off like at noon. And then you were only required to have 8 hours off, and then 6 hours, 8 hours. So 6 hours later, your phone was ringing. So, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock on duty for the train going to Bakersfield now. So now you're going to be up a minimum of 8 to 12 hours from that time. So 9 to 9 a.m. So, and who can sleep in the middle of the day? Maybe you can sleep for 3 or 4 hours, but that's just the way they did it. And, they expected that, they never really cared. Now, at least you can tie up for rest and things, and you can like tie up around certain jobs. But I used to, that was a hard time. Yeah. I can tell you.
Well, speaking of tying up, I think it's time to tie up our show.
Oh, okay. Well,
are you turning it? There you go.
I'll turn this to red.
Yeah, we'll have to talk about marker lights next time, I guess.
Yep. Stop.
Is that the stop?
That's stop. Yep.
Well, thanks for taking the time to hang out with us here, Mike. I appreciate it, and we'll see you soon. If you hang out here for a minute, after all our amazing music stops, we can BS for a few minutes.
Okay. If anybody wants to email me at that one or mcoljo@gmail.com, I'll be glad to answer any questions they have. And of course, like John is. Let me just say really quick. John's doing a great job of having these sessions and going through a ton of work and letting people experience this through the internet, so you don't always have to attend all these clinics or glean information from different sources. And that's just or
go work for the railroad for 45 years.
Right, invaluable service to people, and he does a ton of hard work, and I'm a patron with a Patreon member of John's because I appreciate everything he does, and he works really hard at it, and so if you can give a little bit to John, do it. Wow. Become a Patreon member. I can't say enough about how much work, and we've had discussions on the phone and texting off and on, and I it's not that if you can do a couple bucks a month or even a little more, perfect. I know John would appreciate it, but he's bringing up this viewership to all these people out there, and hopefully it'll get even bigger.
I wasn't expecting an infomercial from you. I really appreciate that.
Nicely done, Mike.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
That was one of the things on my list.
Oh,
Yeah.
you wanted to?
Yeah.
Well,
No, that was my list to say what you're doing out here, and it's not just for fun. It's a job for you, and you take it seriously, and it's a ton of work.
And it's ironic because as you were saying that, I was thinking, oh, I have a little thing I can run across the bottom of the screen for this, which is something I should run across the bottom of the screen more often, because people who watch don't always know about that. So I'll make that go away. But thank you.
Yeah, I got an idea. Why don't we have a telethon, and then well, I mean, we just got $5 from Dave Bayless. Let's put Dave on the phone. I scraped out my penny jar, and I'm sending you guys $5. That'll get John from San Jose to San Leandro to the next layout tour.
Right.
But
I'm actually going to be filming a layout tour close to San Leandro this weekend.
I'll send you a $5 shell card in the mail. Let me know.
That'll give me about a half a gallon of gas, right?
Right. Yeah.
But
really, I'm seriously though. But just think of what you're listening to, and this information. And I don't know how many videos do you have out there now, John. Like, you got to have hundreds, right?
Oh no, it's a lot more than that. Last time I looked, because YouTube has a thing that tells you how many videos you have, and it's like 1,700 videos on the channel.
Oh wow, really crazy.
1,701 now, because this is going to be on the channel.
There you go.
So
but
and it is a lot of work, and it doesn't happen by magic. And you're right, I don't really think about that, but I really got to get better about promoting myself and making sure people know about Patreon, because YouTube's weird. The channel's bigger than it's ever been and more views than ever and all this stuff. But for some strange reason, nothing changes about the revenue that it generates. Actually, it's down. So right.
Yeah, which is crazy. And,
go figure that one out. Right. So patreon.com/TSG Multimedia if you're interested in becoming a patron, or if you appreciate the work that we do here and the videos that come out. I know it's appreciated, even if it's just when I started Patreon, just real quick, and then we will go. I thought if we could just get some small percentage of people out of this now 65,000 or so subscribers that we have, if even 1% of those people were able to and willing to give like $2 a month, it would really make a difference in the bills and all that. And we could actually go out and do more stuff in faraway places. Like, I want to get to the East Coast one of these days, but and bring the layouts to your local TV screen and never leave your house. And you go, well, is it really worthwhile to go here? And you go, yeah, I sure like that layout, and I want to see more of it. Or if you're just, there's a lot of guys that are just, incapable of traveling or whatever, or they're in a wheelchair or whatever. And so, that's just an invaluable service, but it's, it's not that much money, and I'm giving $5 a month, and I should be giving more, actually. I'll hold you to that.
I'll up it on my next renewal. I'll get the renewal form and go, oh, not this guy. Oh, no.
I'm going to start sending you mail and stuff. I'm going to start spamming you. You said you would pledge $50.
Yeah, I get like six emails a day from John. John needs your help.
Help feed the starving kittens in Africa or whatever. But better yet, help feed me donuts.
The cost of Grecian formula has gone up.
That's right. I can't.
John needs help.
Anymore. Yeah. Thanks a lot.
He's given up.
Yeah,
He's given up.
This started 20 years ago, and kids made it accelerate even faster. So,
quit complaining. At least you got hair. I'm wearing a hat.
Right.
Did you see this, Mike? Did you see his stylish TSG?
Oh yeah, no, I didn't. Now I can see it now. Yeah, I didn't. I did not notice it. That is nice.
How stylish is that?
Right. And everybody likes the gear.
Right. And Mike, if you donate $55 a week a day, we'll get you one of those hats too, and you can wear that to work.
$55 a day, yeah. TSG Multimedia.
A week a day, yeah. And just consider it, you get railroad retirement, that's going to make you rich. So you could give more.
The cost of
It will, yeah. I've got a lot of time spending.
For just 10 cents a day, you can feed a homeless child. And
Yeah. And his name's John.
That's my Sarah McLaughlin imitation there.
We better go before we get the full show here.
Right. I think we need a telephone to have these guests.
All right, operators are standing by, so
okay,
and pledge your whatever donation or something.
Yes,
buy me some donuts.
Sydney's manning the phone, right? Your wife's name is Sydney. Yeah.
Well, yeah, she actually had to go now, so it's going to be us.
Okay.
We're going to be answering phones, Murph.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
tell her as soon as she left, the phone started ringing off the hook.
Yeah, I have our first call, so we're going to go now. So thanks everybody for watching. Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Murph. Oh, thank you.
All right. Thanks. Nice meeting you guys. Hopefully we'll see you next month.
Yep. There's the shake for you.
Take care, Mike.
I'll get that call now. Thank you for calling.
All right. Lock the switch. Lock the door.